Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something that changed the course of my life. And it wasn't some $1 million idea or a big break from Hollywood. It was advice, just one piece of advice, simple but powerful. And it became the engine behind everything I've ever accomplished. I call it my best life advice, and tonight I'm giving it to you. Your mindset determines your altitude. This statement has shaped the lives of millions who dare to believe that their thoughts could be the engine behind their transformation. Your mind is not just a tool, it's a battlefield. Every success, every failure, every moment of hesitation or bold action starts first in the mind. What you tell yourself, what you believe in private, long before anyone sees you in public, is what determines how high you'll rise in life. You don't need approval from the world when your own inner voice speaks with confidence, purpose, and belief. Most people are trained to see limits, not possibilities. They look around at what they can't do, what they lack, and where they've fallen short. But the people who rise, the ones who break barriers and walk into rooms no one ever thought they'd enter, are the ones who train their minds to believe they belong there before they ever arrive. This doesn't mean you won't doubt yourself. It means you learn how to overpower those doubts with intentional thinking. The average person lets their mind be shaped by external noise, social media, opinions, the past, negativity. These all shape their narrative. But successful people, fulfilled people, game changers, they take control of their thoughts like a pilot takes control of a plane. They don't let their past define. They don't let other people's expectations become their ceiling. They tell themselves daily, I can, I will, I must. They make it a habit to feed their mind the same way they feed their body, with intention, discipline, and consistency. If you let your mind stay on autopilot, the default setting will always be fear, always be doubt, always be excuses. But when you make the decision to shift your thinking, everything else starts to follow. Changing your mindset isn't just about motivation, it's about discipline. You have to fight for it. You have to choose every morning to think higher, even when your surroundings look low. You have to decide to see potential where others only see pain. You've got to look in the mirror and speak life even when you don't feel it. That's the grind most people miss. They want elevation without mental transformation. They want success without shifting their internal story. But success begins inside. You don't win championships on the field if you haven't already won in your mind. You don't close $1 million deals or launch world-changing ideas without first seeing it clearly in your thoughts and acting like it's already yours. The altitude of your life will always match the altitude of your thoughts. If you keep thinking small, you'll stay small. If you keep playing safe, you'll stay stuck. But if you start to think in terms of growth, abundance, faith, and resilience, everything in your life will rise to meet that level. Your energy will change, your habits will change, your conversations will change, and most importantly, your outcomes will begin to reflect your mindset. People who rise don't have better luck, they have better thinking. They've trained their minds to reject defeat and replace it with determination. They've practiced turning fear into fuel. They've mastered the art of believing in their future more than they believe in their past. And when you do that, when you truly commit to shifting your mindset, there is no limit to how high you can go. Because it's not your environment, not your background, not your mistakes, and not your failures that decides your altitude. It's you. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Start now. This is one of the greatest truths people overlook while chasing their goals. Far too many dreams are buried not because they weren't possible, but because someone kept waiting for the right time, the right opportunity, the right support, or the perfect plan. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. Life doesn't operate like a stage play. with every prop in place and the lighting just right. Life moves fast, and opportunities don't wait for your fear to settle or your doubts to disappear. If you keep telling yourself, I'll do it when I'm ready, chances are you'll still be saying that years from now. Readiness is not about conditions. It's about mindset. It's not about having all the answers, but about having enough courage to take the first step without them. Most people are waiting for a feeling of confidence to appear before they move, but confidence is a result of action, not a prerequisite. You become confident by doing. You grow through movement, not planning. There is value in preparation, yes, but over-preparation can be a mask for fear. You can read all the books, watch every tutorial, go to every seminar, and still never start. What separates people who achieve from those who merely dream is the ability to begin while still unsure. You don't need a 5-year plan to start walking in your calling. You don't need the applause of others to believe in your own voice. The path becomes clear as you walk it. Doors open when you knock, not when you wait outside hoping someone hears your thoughts. Too many people are paralyzed by the idea that failure will destroy them. But failure is just feedback. It's a teacher. Every successful person has a trail of mistakes behind them that most never see. They didn't arrive because things were perfect. They arrived because they refused to let imperfection stop them. They learned to work with what they had, to build while broke, to believe while uncertain. They started messy and figured it out along the way. Progress is never linear, and greatness is never born from comfort. You grow by stepping into the unknown, by doing what scares you, by trusting that your next move doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be made. Every day you wait, you lose time you'll never get back. While you hesitate, someone with less talent but more action is out there building, growing, and becoming. Action beats perfection every single time. If you wait until you feel ready, understand that ready is not a place you arrive at. It's a decision you make. You decide that your dream is worth risking discomfort. You decide that your calling is more important than your excuse. You decide that your future deserves action, not hesitation. Life rewards those who move with intention, even when conditions seem uncertain. The people you admire, the ones who seem to have it all together, once stood exactly where you are, full of doubts, questions, and fear. But they started. They didn't ask for permission. They didn't wait for certainty. They said yes to the moment, yes to the calling, and yes to themselves. That one step changed everything, not because it was perfect, but because it was movement. Momentum creates clarity. Progress reveals purpose. You discover your power not by sitting still, but by showing up again and again, even when it's messy, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it feels like you're not ready. The truth is, the world doesn't need another perfect plan. It needs people bold enough to take imperfect action. Faith is the foundation of every breakthrough. Before success, before progress, before achievement, there must be belief. Faith is not just a spiritual term or a feel-good word. It's a mindset, a commitment, and a force that keeps you going when everything around you says stop. Faith is that deep inner knowing that something greater is possible even when there's no evidence in sight. It's a willingness to move forward even when the path ahead is foggy, even when the bank account is empty, even when the people you thought would support you walk away. Faith is not something you pull out when things are good. It's what you rely on when nothing seems to be working. You cannot break through ceilings, fears, or limits without first believing that you can. Every person who has done something great has had to lean on faith at some point. Whether they said it out loud or not, whether they were public about it or kept it private, they had to believe in what they could not see. That belief became their power. It became the fuel that got them up every morning and pushed them to keep trying, even after failures, rejection, or disappointment. Faith whispers, keep going when the world yells, give up. It tells you there's more when your past screams you've had enough. It strengthens your heart when your mind is tired. Faith builds endurance like nothing else because it's not tied to emotions. It's tied to vision. Many people live stuck because they only trust what they can touch. They need proof, guarantees, and security before they move. But faith doesn't operate like that. Faith says, I'll step first and the ground will show up later. It's not reckless. It's powerful. It doesn't deny the reality of your situation, but it declares that your current reality is not your final destination. Faith lets you look at a mountain and know that with persistence, prayer, and purpose, it will move. And even if it doesn't move the way you expect, faith gives you the strength to climb over it. That's the kind of inner power that builds legacies. Faith is also what keeps you steady when progress is slow. In a world obsessed with instant results and overnight success, faith teaches patience. It reminds you that everything worth building takes time, that sometimes the seed you're planting in silence will bloom in a season no one saw coming, that just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen, and that the delay is not denial, it's development. Faith builds character while you're waiting. It strengthens your resolve when the spotlight is off you. It refines your purpose when the world isn't watching. And then, when the time is right, it carries you to the breakthrough you were built for. You don't need faith for the easy things. You need faith when the odds are against you, when the vision feels too big, when you're stepping into a space you've never been in before. Faith stretches you, grows you, and demands that you rise to the occasion even when you're trembling. It challenges you to believe that your destiny is bigger than your current discomfort, that the dreams you've been given are not random, and that the desire to rise inside you is not by accident. It's divine. Faith makes you bold. It gives you permission to believe in something higher, stronger, and deeper than what the world says is possible. It anchors you when you're drifting. It empowers you when you feel weak. It shifts your perspective from fear to hope, from worry to trust, from survival to purpose. And when you really begin to walk in faith, everything around you begins to change, not because the circumstances change first, but because your belief changed your reality. You must outgrow your fears to grow into your destiny. Fear is the most silent killer of dreams, not because it's loud or aggressive, but because it's subtle and convincing. It whispers just enough doubt to keep you from moving, just enough uncertainty to make you delay, and just enough insecurity to keep you tied to where you are. Every person is born with the seeds of greatness, but very few people allow themselves to grow into that greatness because fear creates invisible chains that feel real. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of starting over. These fears don't just exist in your mind, they shape your habits, your words, your decisions, and ultimately your future. Outgrowing fear is not about never being afraid. It's about learning to walk through fear instead of sitting in it. People who grow into their calling aren't fearless, they're courageous. They feel the same anxiety, the same what-ifs, but they refuse to let fear drive the car. They put fear in the back seat and move forward anyway. Every step you take into discomfort stretches your capacity. Every time you act in spite of fear, you weaken its power. Fear only grows in silence and stillness, but it shrinks in motion. The longer you stay still, the louder fear becomes. But the moment you start moving toward what scares you, that's when you begin to take back control. The truth is, your destiny requires a version of you that fear cannot control. You cannot live small and expect to fulfill a big purpose. You cannot hide behind excuses and think your gift will still make room for you. Life will stretch you, challenge you, and put you in situations where fear will scream at you to stop, to quit, to settle. But if you want what's meant for you, you have to push past the noise. You have to tell yourself that fear is not a sign to stop. It's a sign you stepping into something meaningful. The presence of fear is not proof of weakness, it's confirmation of growth. You're on the edge of something that matters. Growth and fear are always connected. If you're growing, fear will always be nearby because it wants to keep you in what's familiar. But everything you desire is outside of your comfort zone. Your next level is waiting on the other side of that scary decision, that hard conversation, that bold move you've been avoiding. Fear is a test to see how bad you really want it. Do you want comfort or do you want calling? Do you want easy or do you want elevation? Because you can't have both. There comes a point where you must choose to become bigger than your fears. Not overnight, not all at once, but day by day, choice by choice, step by step. Fear will always show up when you're about to level up. It's not a sign that you're on the wrong path. It's a sign that you're doing something worth fighting for. The people who achieve the impossible aren't built differently. They just refuse to let fear have the final say. They walked into rooms they felt unqualified for. They stood on stages while their hands shook. They launched businesses, started movements, changed lives, not because they weren't afraid, but because they knew that staying stuck was a worse fate than trying and failing. When you start to think that way, fear loses its power. It becomes noise instead of a barrier. Your destiny isn't waiting on fear to leave. It's waiting on you to move anyway. You will never become everything you were designed to be while staying where fear keeps you. At some point, you have to outgrow the thoughts that shrink you. You have to outgrow the environment that limits you. You have to outgrow the stories you keep telling yourself about why you can't, why you shouldn't, why you're not ready. Growth requires a new mindset, a new level of faith, and a new relationship with fear. Instead of running from it, you face it. Instead of bowing to it, you rise above it. Because everything you've been called to become is on the other side of it. You're not a product of your past, you're a designer of your future. One of the biggest lies people believe is that their past defines them. That because they made mistakes, struggled, got hurt, failed, or lost their way, they are permanently disqualified from the future they dream about. But the truth is, your past is only a chapter, not the whole book. The things you went through may have shaped you, but they do not have the power to define you unless you give them permission. Every pain, every failure, every setback can be fuel for the future. If you decide to turn it into a lesson instead of a label, you are not your trauma. You are not your poor decisions. You are not your lowest moment. You are more than your history, and the pen is still in your hand. The people who rise are not the ones who have the cleanest past. They're the ones who refuse to be stuck in it. They don't ignore what happened, but they refuse to let what was stop them from creating what can be. They use their past as a teacher, not a prison. They look at every experience and ask, what can I learn? How can I grow? What can I do differently? Because life isn't about perfection, it's about progression. And every time you choose growth over guilt, healing over hiding, purpose over pain, you become the architect of your next chapter. The past will always try to speak. It will whisper that you're unworthy, that you're too late, that you missed your chance. But the future doesn't care about that. The future only responds to what you do today. You could have made 1,000 mistakes, but one decision in the present can begin to rewrite your story. You are always one choice away from a new direction, one shift in mindset, one step forward, one act of faith. And when you make that shift, the weight of the past starts to lose its grip. You begin to see that you were never stuck. You were just conditioned to believe you were. Every person has a past, but not everyone uses it. The strongest people didn't have perfect beginnings. They had the courage to begin again. They faced their regrets, forgave themselves, and committed to showing up differently. They didn't wait for someone to come save them or validate them. They saved themselves by refusing to stay buried in shame. That kind of strength comes from realizing that your story still has value, even if it didn't start the way you wanted. And sometimes the most powerful future is built by someone who has been through the fire and came out strong. If your past was filled with doubt, then make your future one of confidence. If your past was filled with chaos, then build peace with intention. If your past was filled with silence, then use your voice now. Every time you decide to do something different than what you were taught or what you experienced, you are breaking a cycle. You are not cursed to repeat the pain of your past unless you choose not to grow beyond it. You get to decide what this next season looks like. You get to design your days, your habits, your relationships, and your legacy. Don't let the past write your future in permanent ink. Rewrite it in bold new colors. Stand tall in the fact that you are evolving, you are learning, you are not who you used to be. And if you are strong enough to survive what broke you, you are strong enough to build what inspires you. Your future isn't waiting on your past to disappear. It's waiting on you to accept that you are the author now. You get to build something new, not because your past didn't happen, but because you're brave enough to believe that your future still does. What you speak over your life becomes the life you live. Words are not just sounds or expressions, they are seeds. Every word you speak carries energy, intention, and direction. What you continue to speak over yourself day after day becomes the reality you eventually live in. If you constantly say, "I'm not good enough," then your mind will believe it, and your actions will follow that belief. If you say, "Nothing ever works out for me," you'll start finding ways to prove yourself right. But the opposite is also true. If you wake up and speak life, strength, vision, and victory over yourself, your life will start to align with those declarations. The words you use are like blueprints for your future. They either build you up or tear you down. They either create momentum or reinforce stagnation. Many people speak defeat and frustration without realizing they are training their minds to expect failure. They've gotten used to saying things like, "I'm always broke," "I never catch a break," or "people like me don't make it." And without understanding it, they're building a prison with their own language. The more you say it, the more your mind begins to search for evidence that is true. That's how powerful your words are. They create internal confirmation. But when you begin to flip that script and start speaking like your life has meaning, your mind begins to shift. You walk differently. You think more clearly. You start seeing yourself not as a victim of your circumstances, but as a creator of your outcome. Changing how you speak isn't just about motivation. It's a discipline. You must train yourself to speak what you want even before you see it. Even when nothing is changing on the outside, your words have to lead the way. Speak health even when the doctor's report looks bad. Speak progress even when you're stuck. Speak abundance even if your wallet is empty. What you speak in the dark is what brings light into your life. You don't speak based on how things are. You speak based on where you're going. That's how faith works. It calls things that are not as though they already were. And your words are your first act of faith. People often wait to speak positively once their situation improves. But it's the positive declaration that helps shift the situation in the first place. If you only speak what you see, you're stuck in a cycle. But if you begin to speak what you believe, you break through that cycle and create a new one. One where growth, favor, and opportunity become your normal. And that's not just hype, it's a principle. Your mouth steers your mindset, and your mindset steers your actions. That's why you can't afford to joke about your pain all the time or normalize struggle in your speech. Every time you declare something over yourself, you are planting a seed that will grow if you continue to water it. The power of life and death truly is in the tongue. That means you hold the key to your own momentum. Even if nobody else is speaking life over you, you have the power to speak it over yourself. Look in the mirror and tell yourself who you are becoming. Remind yourself of what you've survived, what you've learned, and what you're still capable of. Speak confidence into your mornings. Speak peace into your chaos. Speak determination into your goals. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about creating a mindset that is strong enough to build through the imperfection. If your words have the power to create your future, then choose them with intention. Use your voice to encourage, not to complain. Use it to build, not to blame. Speak what you want to attract. Speak what you are stepping into. Because your words don't just describe your life, they shape it. You are living today in part because of what you said yesterday, and you will live tomorrow based on what you are saying right now.